Welcome everyone to our presentation for our NRP Open On Demand project. So our project was for the Holland Computing Center, the HCC here on campus, and they are responsible for managing all of the advanced computing resources that the university offers. And HCC as an entity aims to increase accessibility to these high performance computing resources, and they are currently doing this through a website. This website's called Open On Demand, and it just makes it really easy to access these resources. You go on there, you select the type of job you want to run, and the app and you fill out the form for the app, hit launch, and your job runs. As for our stakeholders, we had Derek and Natasha. We were very grateful to have them as they provided a lot of insight into the high computing world. And as for our faculty, we had Mel and Zach. They were helpful on the senior design side of things. And I'm Ethan. I'm our team lead. And with me, I have AJ today, and he's our development manager. And for our team, we also had Larion, Lorenzo, Matthew, and Ryan. All right, on to our problem. So HCC currently uses Open On Demand as their web portal for researchers to go on and submit jobs, as I said before. And when you do this, it will submit jobs to the SWAN cluster. And this cluster has approximately 200 GPUs. And these are shared across anyone who submits jobs to the website. However, on those peak times, this can get kind of strenuous, and researchers may have to wait in queue for their jobs to complete. So our project aimed to expand the scope of clusters which jobs can be submitted to. And we aimed to make two apps which could submit, instead of the SWAN, to the NRP cluster. The National Research Platform owns this cluster. It's a global network. A bunch of different universities contribute to it, and they have over 1,500 GPUs available to them. And we need apps that we're able to run on this to be able to test our connectivity. So AlphaFold and Jupyter Lab are the two apps that were selected, as they are computationally expensive programs. What is NRP? So NRP is a distributed Kubernetes network that it can be used by anyone if they request access to it. And there are over 50 universities and other national labs who contribute to this cluster and offer their resources. And this is, the NRP sees leadership by UNL, the San Diego Supercomputer, and the Massachusetts Green High Performance Computing Center. And just to give kind of the scope of the resources that we're talking about here, there were over 5 million GPU hours used by 525 research groups in 2024. And so this is what we're trying to submit our jobs to. And now I'll pass it off to AJ to talk more about Jupyter Lab and AlphaFold.
All right. Thanks, Ethan. Just to get off, what it's talking about, what is Jupyter Lab? Jupyter Lab is an online development notebook workspace used primarily for data science and machine learning, making machine learning models. It's used for data science primarily because of its ease of use and being able to see your data at the same place as you're working with your code. It allows you to easily view your data, and like I said earlier, it's used to many different fields of research. Here is a example of what a Jupyter Lab image could do, or what Jupyter Lab can do. For example, here we have a image generation where you can give it a prompt. For this example, we said cyberpunk city skyline. And while it's not the best image generation, it's still an image generation that was generated completely by Jupyter Lab and NRP with its resources. And going on to our next app, AlphaFold. AlphaFold is an AI protein folding simulation developed by Google DeepMind. So what you do is you input a sequence of amino acids, and then what AlphaFold does is it predicts how those amino acids would interact with each other and fold into a 3D shape. What this does, it allows researchers to kind of infer how the protein will interact with the body without having to actually have it interact with the body. It just speeds up research and gets rid of time. Going on to the next. Here's what it looks like after you fill out the form for the after you fill out the form for our AlphaFold app. You have to give the form the the sequence of amino acids that you want to test with, and you have to give it the binary for the model, for the actual AlphaFold model. And then once you fill it out and submit the job, you'll get a window here saying folding in progress. And it does take a few hours for your job to finish. But after that, you'll be able to go in. And if I go a couple slides here, if you see this picture over here, that is a picture of a folded protein that we used that we folded on our AlphaFold implementation running on NRP. And here's what the forms look like for our apps. On the left, you'll see Jupyter Lab, where you can put in the Jupyter image you want, which allows you to create different packages with each of them, depending on whatever workload you want to do. And you can use GPUs with this. And if you were to click the advanced settings for both of these apps, it'll allow you to change the resource requests, which is the amount of CPU cores, the amount of memory, or the amount of VRAM or specific GPU that you want to use. And like I said earlier, on AlphaFold, you input the model weight binary file and then the input for the amino acids. And for AlphaFold, you can put the email in the field below to where you will receive an email when your job's done, as it does take a few hours, like I said earlier. And our main challenges with this project is that AlphaFold requires licensed weights to run. That also we would need to transfer from our local computer to NRP so that our app can actually run. And each AlphaFold job also requires access to a database, which is around 600 gigabytes, which is not feasible to transfer every time. So we have to stage that on a persistent storage on NRP so that our jobs can access that database without having to download it or transfer it back every time, because that's just not feasible. And NRP uses a different scheduler than HEC's existing Swan supercomputer, so we had to learn how to work around that and its quirks. And Jupyter Lab also requires authentication for the user to access their Jupyter Lab server, so we also had to work on creating authentication for that. And what we've learned with the project is that communication with sponsors and others who have experience with HPC was extremely necessary and beneficial for our success in this project, as without them, we may not have got to where we are today. And also the importance of having a plan. We were able to sit down and plan and come up with ideas before we actually started working on our project, so that when we got to working, we knew what we were doing and we didn't have to waste time figuring out what to do or what our next plan of thought was. The value gained from this project is that we very incredibly simplified the process of submitting an AlphaFold 3 job and both Jupyter Lab to NRP, as before you would have to know every single thing to know about. But now all you have to do is fill out a few fields in a form, hit the launch button, and you have access to your Jupyter Lab server or AlphaFold protein. And we've also built the framework for for future apps so that it is easier to implement future apps to work on NRP with our open on-demand instance. Thank you.